world stood still, its breath caught in its throat. This object was simply not possible. It could not have been built by human hands, not by the hands of antiquity, and perhaps not even by the hands of today. This is not a mere collection of stones. It is an indictment. It is a challenge thrown like a granite gauntlet into the face of our modern civilization, a civilization that boasts of its hydraulic cranes, its laser-guided precision, and its supercomputers. What we are looking at is a crime scene, a cold case, millennia old, where the laws of physics and logic were not just bent, but shattered. Here, in the Bekaa Valley of Lebanon, upon a foundation that makes NASA's launchpad engineers shake their heads in humble disbelief, stand the ruins of a Roman temple. But the Romans, in this grand drama, are merely the final act. Before we dive in, just a quick reminder that a simple like and subscribe is the best way to support the channel. Thank you so much for being here. They are late arrivals, tenants who built their magnificent house on the shoulders of forgotten, colossal titans. At the base of this temple, forming a podium of impossible scale, lie 3 monolithic stone blocks known as the trilithon. Each block weighs approximately 900 tons. 900 tons. To provide a shred of context for a number that defies imagination, this is the equivalent weight of 3 fully loaded Boeing 747 jumbo jets. These monoliths are not, however, merely resting on the earth. They were quarried, transported nearly a kilometer, and then lifted over 7 meters, 22 feet, into the air to be set atop an even older foundation. And they are joined with such surgical, unearthly precision that it is impossible, even today, to slide a razor blade, let alone a knife, between them. But even these giants are just the prelude to the true mystery. In the limestone quarry a kilometer away lies a 4th block, abandoned, as if the builders were interrupted mid-task. It is known as the Hajar al-Hibla, the stone of the pregnant woman, and its estimated weight is a staggering ton. And then, as if to mock our incredulity, excavations in 2014 uncovered a 5th block, partially buried beneath the stone of the pregnant woman, an even larger monster. Its weight is estimated at over 1,650 tons. Let this sink in. Our most powerful mobile cranes, the titans of 21st century engineering, would buckle and fail trying to lift even 20% of this weight. The Romans, a people obsessed with documenting their every engineering triumph, from the most mundane aqueduct to the most glorious Colosseum, chronicling every bridge and every road, left not a single line about this. Not one blueprint, not one logistical report, not one boastful inscription, nothing. A complete and absolute silence. And this silence is deafening. It screams the central question of our investigation. If the Romans, the supposed masters of the ancient world, did not build this foundation, then who? What forgotten civilization, what lost lineage of humanity, possessed a technology that dwarfs our own, and then vanished from the earth so completely, leaving behind only these impossible stones as a mute, terrifying testament that mocks our entire understanding of history? This is not a simple archaeological puzzle. This is an investigation in search of a ghost, the ghost of a civilization that walked the earth like gods. To truly grasp the chasm of impossibility that separates Baalbek from everything we know about the ancient world, we must set aside all preconceived theories and become, for a moment, forensic investigators. We must examine the evidence, and the primary evidence is the stone itself, its scale, its processing, and its placement. Let us begin with a baseline of human construction. A standard concrete block you might buy at a hardware store today weighs around 20 kilograms, 44 lobbies. The average block used to construct the Great Pyramid of Giza, itself a monumental engineering feat, weighs 2.5 tons, the equivalent of an SUV. This already represents a colossal challenge. The absolute heaviest single block successfully installed within the Great Pyramid is the granite slab monolithic roof of the King's Chamber, weighing approximately 80 tons. This, we are told, was the absolute zenith, the high watermark of Egyptian engineering prowess. Now, we return to Baalbek, to the trilithon. 3 blocks, forming the western retaining wall of the Temple of Jupiter's podium. Their average weight is 800 to 900 tons each, that is, at minimum, 10 times heavier than the single heaviest block in the Great Pyramid. But they are not, as in Giza, stacked from the ground up. They are part of a support wall raised 7 meters above the ground, resting on a layer of smaller, though still massive, blocks. Let us visualize the engineering problem set. Task 1. Quarry this 900-ton monolith from the bedrock. You must detach it perfectly on all 6 sides without cracking it. Task 2. Transport this monolith, the weight of a small naval destroyer, nearly a kilometer over uneven, rolling terrain from the quarry to the temple site. Task 3. Lift this 900-ton object to the height of a 2-story building. Task 4. Place it with millimeter-perfect precision against its neighbors. And all of this must be accomplished, according to our historical paradigm, by a civilization that lacked structural steel, hydraulics, steam power, or internal combustion engines. Let us dissect each of these impossibilities with the cold eye of an engineer. First, the quarry. Here, the abandoned giants serve as a silent, frozen how-it-wasn't-done manual. The stone of the pregnant woman, Hajar al-Hibla, measuring nearly 20 meters long, 4 meters wide, and 4 meters high, still lies attached to the bedrock at its base, tilted at an angle as if the work was suddenly, perhaps catastrophically, halted. The nearby 1,242-ton Stone of the South and the 1,650-ton behemoth found in 2014 tell a story of ambition that borders on the insane. These stones tell us 2 things. First, the builders were not just making do with what they had. They were intentionally quarrying the largest, most obscene blocks imaginable. This was not a matter of structural necessity. It was a demonstration of capacity, a statement of power so profound it was meant to awe future generations. And it has succeeded. Second, it shows that even these masters, whoever they were, had limits or faced failures. Perhaps cracks were discovered and the blocks were abandoned, but the very attempt is the evidence. How were they cut? Orthodox archaeology suggests a mind-numbing process of pounding the stone with handheld diorite balls and using bronze or iron chisels. But the scale and precision of the cuts, the perfectly flat planes and sharp 90-degree internal angles, seem to defy such primitive methods. The labor required would be almost unimaginable. Next, transportation. How do you move a 150-ton object 1 kilometer over hilly terrain? Modern engineers, when tasked with modeling this problem, throw up their hands. The most popular academic theory involves legions of men, perhaps numbering in the tens of thousands, pulling the blocks over a slipway of wooden rollers. But the calculations simply do not work. The sheer ground pressure, the pounds per square inch, PSI, exerted by a 900-ton block would pulverize any wooden roller, whether cedar, oak, or ironwood, into pulp. The blocks would simply sink into the ground. Furthermore, the path from the quarry to the temple platform is not a smooth downhill glide. It involves navigating slopes. How do you break a 900-ton runaway block? How do you pull it uphill? Alternative theories have been proposed that they built massive paved stone roads and used bronze balls as giant bearings. But not a single trace of such a road, nor a single one of these hypothetical bronze balls, has ever been found. The logistics of feeding, housing, and most importantly, coordinating the 40,000 to 50,000 men required for such a brute force pull beggar belief. Finally, and most bafflingly, the lift. How, in a world without mechanized cranes, do you elevate a 900-ton block 7 meters into the air? The Romans, to be clear, were engineering geniuses. We know they used sophisticated cranes, the polyspastos, operated by large treadmill wheels, powered by men walking inside them. Yet the most powerful Roman crane known, a theoretical reconstruction based on writings by Vitruvius, could lift at the absolute most 6 to 10 tons. To lift the 900-ton trilithon blocks, one would need to synchronize the operation of 90 of these largest possible cranes. This is not an engineering problem, it is a logistical fantasy. The coordination required, the forces involved, the risk of catastrophic failure at every second make this scenario utterly implausible, even with modern computer controls, let alone with signals shouted by foremen. The other primary theory is the use of gigantic earthen ramps. But to build a ramp with a gentle, workable incline to a height of 7 meters would require moving a volume of earth and stone arguably greater than the temple itself. It would be a project on the scale of a small pyramid, built only to be removed. And once again, archaeology is silent. There is zero evidence of such a monumental ramp ever existing. No soil displacement, no retaining walls, nothing. And the cherry on this impossible cake? The precision. The trilithon blocks are not stacked like rough-hewn cyclopean boulders. They are dressed, finished, and fitted with tolerances of less than a millimeter. This is not the work of brute force. This is the work of profound, large-scale, high-technology finesse. It requires not just inhuman power, but superhuman measurement and control. This is why Baalbek is an anomaly. It is not just difficult to explain. It is flagrantly, aggressively impossible within the technological paradigm we attribute to the ancient world. It is a crime scene where all the evidence points to a suspect who simply could not have committed the crime. The Romans were magnificent builders, but for them, this would have been a project on par with a lunar landing. And if it was not them, who left these giant silent visiting cards on the soil of Lebanon? The official narrative, the one you will find in mainstream history textbooks and glossy travel guides, is simple, elegant, and comfortably familiar. It states that Baalbek, known to the Romans as Heliopolis, city of the sun, is the apex of Roman imperial engineering. The Romans, it is said, constructed this entire complex, the largest and most lavish temple precinct in the whole empire, to honor their primary triad of gods, Jupiter, Venus, and Mercury. The construction, according to this timeline, began under Emperor Augustus in the late 1st century BCE and continued for over 2 centuries. The megaliths at the base, including the trilithon, are, in this view, simply the foundation, the podium, for the colossal Temple of Jupiter, built by those same Roman legions and their brilliant engineers. It sounds logical. It sounds clean. But the moment we apply critical pressure, this official story begins to groan, crack, and collapse under its own weight. The primary argument for the Roman origin is undeniably the superstructure. The Temple of Jupiter, of which only 6 colossal columns remain standing today, was the largest temple in the Roman Empire. Its Corinthian columns soared 20 meters, 66 feet, into the sky, each 2.5 meters, 8 feet in diameter, and carved from a single piece of Aswan granite, itself transported all the way from Egypt. Nearby, the Temple of Bacchus stands as one of the best preserved Roman temples in the world, a masterpiece of ornate architecture. All of this is unmistakably Roman. The style, the technique, the sheer imperial hubris. But the problem, the glaring colossal problem, is that these magnificent temples are sitting on a foundation that has absolutely nothing to do with them, stylistically or technologically. The Romans were, above all else, pragmatists. They were the masters of concrete, opus cementitium, and the arch. These 2 innovations allowed them to build vast, strong, and efficient structures across their empire. Why then would they suddenly abandon their own revolutionary efficient methods to engage in this brutally difficult, inefficient, and seemingly impossible form of megalithic construction for a mere foundation? Why quarry 1,000-ton blocks when you could build the same podium faster and easier from 10-ton blocks? Or, even more logically, from their own superlative concrete? It makes no sense. It is, to use the original text's analogy, like deciding to build a simple brick house on a foundation made of solid, flawless diamonds. It is technologically superfluous, illogical, and impossibly profligate. Then there is the strangeness of the location. The Romans built their most grandiose structures in the capital, Rome itself, or in other critically important political, economic, or military centers. Heliopolis was a wealthy trading city on a key caravan route, but it was never the political or military capital of the region, which was Antioch or Caesarea. Why build here, on the relative fringes of the empire, a structure whose foundation and primary temple dwarfed anything ever attempted in Rome itself? It defies Roman political and cultural logic. But the most damning piece of evidence against the Roman theory is the one we began with, the total, resounding silence. The Romans were, without exaggeration, obsessed with public relations and self-aggrandizement. They carved their achievements onto every available surface. Emperor Augustus left us the Res Gestae, a complete record of his accomplishments. Trajan minutely documented the construction of his bridge across the Danube. We know the architects of the Colosseum. We know the cost and length of every aqueduct. They documented everything. Yet, concerning the quarrying, transportation, and lifting of the 1,650-ton blocks of Baalbek, arguably the single greatest engineering feat of the pre-industrial world, we have not one word. Not in any surviving Roman text, not in any engineering manual, not in any imperial diary, not in any senatorial decree, not a single dedicatory inscription. This silence is historically inexplicable. It is, as the text aptly puts it, like NASA landing men on Mars and simply forgetting to mention it in any press release or internal report. It is an omission so vast it becomes a presence. It is evidence of absence. It is precisely this silence, coupled with the technological chasm, that has forced many researchers, even some within the academic mainstream, to a radical conclusion. The Romans did not build the foundation. They found it. They arrived at this site, a place already held sacred for millennia by the local Semitic peoples, and discovered a gigantic, ancient, and incomprehensible platform left behind by a forgotten predecessor civilization. And, being practical Romans, they simply repurposed it. They built their own, admittedly magnificent temple on top of this pre-existing ancient wonder. This theory elegantly explains the technological gap, the stylistic dissonance, and most critically, the Roman silence. They didn't write about it because they didn't do it. They likely had no idea who had done it. And perhaps they even feared the ancient non-human legacy they were building upon. The Roman footprint at Baalbek is undeniable, but it only leads to the temples. The foundation is a different case entirely, a mystery that recedes much, much deeper into the mists of time. If not the Romans, then who? Our investigation now spirals backward into the deep past, into the world of civilizations that inhabited this region long before the first Roman legions marched east. The primary candidate for the role of Titans would logically be the Phoenicians. The Phoenicians, a Semitic people who lived on the coast of modern-day Lebanon, were the greatest seafarers, explorers, and merchants of the ancient world. From the 2nd millennium BCE, they dominated Mediterranean trade. They founded Carthage, traded with Egypt and Greece, and may have even reached Britain. They were also skilled builders. Their cities of Tyre, Sidon, and Byblos were powerful, well-wrought fortresses. Most importantly, Baalbek was in their heartland. In fact, the very name Baalbek almost certainly derives from their chief deity, Baal or Baal, the god of the sky, thunder, and fertility. For the Phoenicians, this site was sacred long before the Romans identified Baal with their own Jupiter. It is perfectly logical to assume that they would have built the first major sanctuary here. Archaeological digs beneath the Roman courtyard have, in fact, revealed remnants of older structures from the Phoenician period. But here, we slam into the very same wall, the technological one. The Phoenicians were skilled stonemasons, but there exists zero evidence that they ever worked with megaliths on this scale. Their grandest walls were built of much smaller, though still large, blocks. Moving 1-ton monoliths would have been just as impossible for them as it was for the Romans. If not them, then perhaps the Egyptians. During the New Kingdom, circa 1550 to 1070 BCE, Egypt's empire extended to control this entire region, and the Egyptians, as we know, were masters of megalithic architecture. They moved granite obelisks weighing hundreds of tons and built the vast temple complexes of Karnak and Luxor. Technologically, they were closer to this feat than anyone else in the established ancient world. But this theory, too, is riddled with problems. The style of Baalbek's masonry is entirely non-Egyptian. There are no hieroglyphs, no characteristic iconography, no lotus columns or pylon gates. And once again, we find a deafening silence in their incredibly detailed construction chronicles. The Egyptians, who documented the quarrying and transport of every obelisk for their pharaohs, make no mention of a project in Lebanon that would have dwarfed even their greatest domestic achievements. This failure to find a local culprit has led some researchers to look much further afield, both in space and in time. They point out that Baalbek is not alone in its impossibility. It is part of a global pattern of anomalous megalithic structures whose origins and technologies remain fiercely debated. The precision-cut terraces of Ollantaytambo in Peru, the incomprehensible H-blocks of Pumapunku in Bolivia, the eerie underwater structures off Yonaguni, Japan, and perhaps even the oldest phases of Stonehenge. What if, these theorists ask, all these sites are the scattered legacy of a single, global, highly advanced prehistoric civilization? A civilization that existed perhaps toward the end of the last ice age and was wiped out by a global cataclysm such as the Younger Dryas climate event around 12,000 years ago? This hypothetical mother culture, sometimes speculatively called Atlantean, possessed, according to this theory, knowledge and technologies that we are only now beginning to rediscover. Baalbek, in this view, is not a Roman or Phoenician temple. It is one of the last surviving outposts of this antediluvian world. This theory, of course, rests on the very fringe of archaeology and myth. We lack direct smoking gun proof of such a civilization, but it is a tantalizing hypothesis. It is the only theory that plausibly accounts for the technological anomaly of Baalbek, its sheer magnificent uniqueness. It transforms Baalbek from a local puzzle into a key piece of a global, world-changing mystery. Let us return once more to the scene of the crime, to the quarry and to the podium, and let us look at the evidence not as historians, but as technologists and engineers. How exactly were these blocks cut and moved? On the surfaces of the stones in the quarry, one can see faint but clear tool marks. These are not the rough, pockmarked divots one would expect from primitive hand tools. They are, in many cases, long, parallel, perfectly straight grooves, as if a gigantic, guided mechanical saw or router had passed over the stone. Researchers like Christopher Dunn, an engineer with decades of experience in high-precision manufacturing, have argued that such marks are telltale signs of machine processing. He posits that the ancients may have possessed technologies we deem modern, such as high-frequency ultrasound or vibrational tools that could resonate with the stone's crystal structure, effectively softening it and allowing it to be cut like butter. This idea is, of course, pure heresy to conventional archaeology. But how else to explain not just the smooth cuts, but the perfect geometry of the blocks? The flawless 90-degree angles maintained over the 20-meter length of a monolith. This requires not just perfect tools, but perfect metrology, the science of measurement. Then there is the mystery of the so-called lifting bosses. On many megalithic blocks in Egypt and Peru, we find strange protrusions that archaeologists label bosses, assuming ropes were tied around them for lifting. But on the trilithon blocks at Baalbek, no such bosses exist. Instead, one can find a series of small, precisely drilled, perfectly circular holes arranged in curious patterns. Their purpose is a total mystery. They are too small and too strangely placed to be used for any conventional rope-based leverage. Some have speculated that metal rods were inserted into them, but for what? To be part of an unknown lifting device? A mechanism based on principles we have yet to rediscover? This brings us to the fringe, but persistent theory of acoustic levitation. The legends of many ancient peoples, from Tibetan monks to Egyptian priests, tell stories of wise men moving massive stones using the power of sound, with special trumpets, drums, or chants. To modern science, this sounds like pure fantasy. Yet, laboratory experiments in physics today confirm the principle of acoustic levitation. Sound waves can be used to counteract gravity, at least for very small, lightweight objects. Could the ancients have known the secret to scaling this principle, using precise frequencies and harmonics to render a 1,000-ton block partially weightless? And now, perhaps the strangest clue of all, the alignment. We know that many ancient megalithic sites, Stonehenge, Newgrange, the Giza pyramids, are precise astronomical observatories, aligned to the solstices, equinoxes, or specific stars. What about Baalbek? The Roman temple of Jupiter itself was oriented, as many Roman temples were, almost perfectly east-west. But the megalithic platform beneath it, including the trilithon, is built on a slightly but significantly different axis. It is skewed a few degrees. It is not aligned to the Roman grid, nor is it aligned to our modern cardinal directions. Researchers working with archaeoastronomy software, which can model the night sky of the deep past, have proposed a stunning theory. The platform of Baalbek, they suggest, was aligned to the rising and setting of specific stars or constellations, but not as they appeared in the Roman era. Because of the precession of the equinoxes, the slow, 26,000-year wobble of the Earth's axis, the stars slowly drift from their positions. The theory is that Baalbek's foundation was aligned to the constellation Orion, or perhaps the star Sirius, but as they appeared in the sky 10,000, 12,000, or even 14,000 years ago. If this is true, it is another powerful, if circumstantial, piece of evidence that the foundation of Baalbek is a relic from the prehistoric, pre-Diluvian world. A civilization that watched the same stars as us, but saw in them a different map, a different calendar, and perhaps a different meaning. All this evidence, the machine-like tool marks, the enigmatic holes, the precessional, astronomical alignment, does not give us a final answer. But it paints a picture of a civilization whose technological and intellectual sophistication was utterly out of place in the ancient world we think we know. A civilization that wielded not just the power of muscle, but the power of a mind capable of grasping geometry, astronomy, and perhaps a physics that we have yet to fully comprehend. What does all of this mean? How does the revelation that Baalbek was likely not built by the Romans, but is the inheritance of a far more ancient and technologically advanced civilization, change our understanding of the human story? It does not simply add another unsolved mystery to the files. It detonates the very foundation upon which our modern model of the past is built. That model, born in the 19th century, is one of simple, linear, upward progress. Humanity, in this clean narrative, evolved slowly and steadily, from primitive hunter-gatherers in the Stone Age to the first farmers of the Neolithic, to the first city-states of the Bronze Age, Sumer, Egypt, to the classical empires of the Iron Age, Greece, Rome, followed by a Dark Age, a Renaissance, and finally, our own scientific technical civilization as the undisputed pinnacle of human evolution. In this comfortable, self-congratulatory timeline, there is no room for a highly advanced Ice Age civilization. It simply cannot exist because the model says it must not exist. Any artifact that does not fit this narrative, an out-of-place artifact, is either dismissed as an anomaly, declared a forgery, or, as in the case of Baalbek, it is conveniently and incorrectly attributed to a later, acceptable culture, like the Romans. But Baalbek, along with other inconvenient monuments like Göbekli Tepe in Turkey, a complex megalithic temple built by supposed hunter-gatherers 12,000 years ago, and the laser-like precision of Pumapunku in Bolivia all scream the same message: this linear model is wrong. It is a comforting fiction. These stones tell us that human history was likely not a smooth ascending line, but a punctuated cyclical one. A story of immense peaks and catastrophic valleys. A story of great civilizations rising, achieving heights of knowledge we can only guess at, and then falling into ruin and oblivion, leaving only fragmented, misunderstood ruins behind. Perhaps there have been other humanities on this planet, civilizations that developed along entirely different technological paths. Perhaps they did not create a global industrial digital world as we have, but instead achieved unimaginable heights in other fields, in working with stone as if it were clay, in astronomy, in understanding the subtle energies of the planet, perhaps even in the development of consciousness itself. And then they vanished. Whether in a sudden global cataclysm like the comet impact theorized to have ended the last ice age, or through slow internal decay, they were erased. We, our modern civilization, are perhaps not the first. We are merely the latest. We are, as some have said, a civilization of amnesiacs, children wandering aimlessly through the ruins of worlds built by our great but forgotten ancestors, blissfully and arrogantly assuming that we are the smartest, the greatest, the first to achieve so much. Baalbek is not just a pile of stones. It is a direct challenge to our species' hubris. It forces us to reconsider the very meaning of progress. It forces us to ask the most profound and disturbing question of all. If civilizations capable of such titanic feats could vanish so completely that we deny they ever existed, what possible guarantee do we have that our own, seemingly powerful civilization will not share their fate? We stand in the long evening shadows of the 6 remaining columns of the Temple of Jupiter. The wind whistles through the ruins, and it almost seems to be whispering stories in a language we have long since forgotten. Our investigation has reached its conclusion, but the mystery of Baalbek has only deepened. We have dismantled the official story, but we cannot provide a final, definitive answer. And that, perhaps, is the true purpose of this place. Baalbek is not a riddle to be solved like a crossword puzzle. It is an eternal question, one that each new generation must ask for itself. If a forgotten civilization truly possessed the technology to quarry, move, and lift 1,650-ton monoliths, what was that technology? Was it mechanical? Was it acoustic? Was it something we cannot even conceive of, perhaps related to consciousness or Earth's own energy fields? And what else did they build? Structures that still lie hidden beneath the desert sands or the ocean's depths. Why was this incredible knowledge lost? Was it a sudden cataclysm that fractured the globe and shattered their world? Or was it a conscious choice, a decision by the survivors to hide this dangerous knowledge from the primitive generations that would follow, from us? And the final, lingering question that stays with us as we leave this place. If history is cyclical, if great civilizations can appear and disappear like waves on the ocean, where are we in that cycle today? Are we riding the crest of a new wave, or are we, in our arrogance and our ignorance of the past, already tilting over, about to crash into the shore? Baalbek is not just a relic of the past, it is a mirror. And looking into its impossible depths, we see not only a mysterious ancient history, we see a disquieting reflection of our own fragile future. What are your thoughts? Is Baalbek simply the ultimate expression of ancient human brute force and genius, the secrets of which we have yet to rediscover? Or is it tangible, physical proof of a lost chapter in the story of humankind, a chapter that could rewrite everything we think we know about ourselves? This investigation is not over. It is only beginning. And the biggest stones in human history have yet to be turned. A huge thank you to everyone who watched this video to the end. Your support, a like, and a subscription is very important to us. And don't forget to hit the bell icon so you can always stay up to date and never miss our new videos.